Welcome back, viewers. When we went for the break, I must admit that what we mainly discussed was all the negatives of climate change. But if we see things like how the Chinese see it, where even in a crisis there must be some, potential or opportunities that are there. As someone who is prone to, when you're not in office, you have all the chance to think about stuff, to look at things in a holistic manner and so on. Are there any opportunities that you have seen presenting themselves in this time where the evidence of climate change is abound? Look at what just happened in Germany, look what's happening in China, and that type of thing. So feel free to.
Okay, so the major opportunity that I'm seeing when it comes on to climate change and adaptation strategies and that sort of thing is that we're at a point now where we need to start to look at how we're designing buildings.
Okay.
Right? Because sometimes we tend to figure that if we use the same 1960s formula, right, of building a box, right, and then chopping some windows and some doors in it, instead of maximizing natural light, instead of putting a biotope on the roof, which is basically a garden or an environment where you just plant some flowers, plant something up there, right? That helps to reduce the overall temperature of the area. So if you look at this building that we're in, right, a couple thousand square feet, and you have all that space on this concrete roof, right? If you put that up there, if you start to just for argument's sake, flowers up there, right? One, it looks better. Two, and the place gets cooler, right? And you also you do better for wildlife because you have birds, bees, lizards, all that good stuff that come by. So those are some of the things that we can do. There's also this school of thought from some persons that they're thinking that to have good environmental management or sustainable development, right, it means that it's going to cost you in the long run. So your profitability is going to be impacted. There are studies right now that have shown that you will actually be more profitable.
Okay,
right?
so positive impact.
Exactly. You'll be more profitable because if you are now using, say, natural light and you actually use the natural flow of the wind, plus you're using some renewable energy source to supplement your energy supply here, what you're realizing that will happen is that's immediate savings for you.
Yeah, but those what you just mentioned, whether climate change is happening, yes or no, those options are always there. But what my question, right, my little jottings right here, is opportunities as a result of climate change. Are there any?
Of course. Right now, there's a lot of talk about the blue economy, which is basically everything ocean related, and how to make that more sustainable. So there are a lot of opportunities that are presenting themselves in that era now. You have the Green Climate Fund that is out there to basically support sustainable development, sustainable environmental practices, all these sorts of things. So the opportunities are out there, right? We just need to take the steps to access them.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I was speaking to us is that I've heard that there are certain countries where, prior to climate change and the results of it, there are certain fruit trees that they couldn't grow. But now with climate change, they now can grow fruit trees that are more belonging to places of warmer temperatures.
Right, but you also have to understand that while that in and of itself may be a good thing here and now, if you think about it, each area has its own ecosystem that's built on what is there. So the place gets warmer quicker. You might find now that you'll probably have some worms that come out of hibernation that come out a little bit earlier.
Yes, point.
While those worms come out, the birds that would have normally come to eat them haven't gotten there yet because it's not time for them to get there.
Right.
So you end up with this infestation coming up now and those sorts of things. So we have to look at it that everything operates in unison. So if it is that, all right, fine, you can now plant a mango tree in Siberia because,
Yes.
because it's so warm there now. Do you really need a mango tree in Siberia, or do you need to look at now what are the sustainable
Well,
farming
if it's
practices?
East Indian mango tree, it can be built anyway.
I had no complaints about that at all. So you now have to look at the sustainable farming opportunities that are there. So that way you're doing what you're doing, but you're doing it in a sustainable way in line with what the whole ecosystem requires. And that's where now your environmental studies, your environmental statements, your environmental reports, right, your feasibility studies, and your operational plans, that's why those things are so important, because you get to identify what is there and how it is that it will be impacted by what you do and what mitigation methods you need to take. Some things you might just need to say, look here, leave it alone. So you might, again, we come back to the mango tree in Siberia, right? You might say, look here, right? There's a whole market for mangoes. In that section of the world, we have zero shipping costs if we just plant them down there. But then you realize that you're introducing this species into an environment, right, that never had to deal with it before.
Sure.
So you now end up with other risks where you might put other plants.
Environmental study need to be done first.
Exactly. So that's where the importance of these things come in, because while opportunities exist, we have to ensure that whatever actions we're taking are rooted in fact.
Not because that it's probably marketable and probably could work for the first season, but could it be sustained? All right. We basically have looked at a lot of what is involved in land environment and climate change. But I don't know if I can start the question now because it might be a little bit long. Some time ago, I was privy to a discussion where one of the things that was mentioned is what you mentioned, where it's 3D sea farming and that type of thing. Has there been any discussions, because as I said before, when you're not in government, you have the opportunity to discuss everything. Has there been any discussions, or has anybody looked at the potential for 3D farming, which is, the caged growing of fish, the crustaceans and so on, and mussels, and has anything like that been done? And seaweeds, that three different potential products, has anything been thought about? Because we have all this water around us, warmer water now, which obviously would mean that these different products that could come out of it would actually stand a better chance of growing now, So is there anything like that being looked at as a potential for upcoming government?
Okay. And the very short answer to that very long question is yes.
Okay.
Right? Because, what you find is that the senior shadow minister on land, environment, and climate change, Senator Sylvia Fraser-Binns, she and I, we enjoy a very good, excellent working relationship. Okay. And we now are both looking at how it is that our oceans are managed, how is it our entire water is managed, and what is it that can come out of that. So we actually have task forces now that are doing the work to put together the information, so that way we can speak from an informed position. But just some of the things, while they sound good on paper, so for instance, that 3D farming that you talk about, it's excellent on paper, but then when you look at it, if it is not managed with near perfection, you can do so much damage to your environment that then now your cost benefit doesn't make sense. Because commercial agriculture on any scale is something that has to be managed properly.
Because it will always have an impact on the environment.
Exactly. So it is not saying no, don't do it. It is saying that do it based on the data and have the systems in place that will ensure that you are not causing more harm than what you are than good. And that's just the simple and the short answer to it.
Well, how should I put it? I know that I may have caught you off guard with that question, But I must tell you, I have a personal, I see the potential of it. And yes, you say it looks good on paper, but I see the potential for this, the entire industry that can come out of it. Not as a panacea for all of Jamaica's ills, but as something that if we pay it good, some attention and do our proper due diligence as far as it is concerned, I feel that there is an opportunity there that at the end of the day we could find jobs for a couple thousand Jamaicans and hence jumpstart an industry of one type or another. So I'm quite sure a junior shadow minister like yourself with a background in environment would be a great asset to anybody who would look on you as somebody to make a contribution in such a paper.
Right, and like I said to you at the outset, we have task forces now that are looking at the entire. So it's not just looking at it in isolation to say that okay, we're going to try this new agricultural technique using our oceans. It is taking a holistic approach to see what is where, what is it that is needed, how it is that things can be done to combat the issues that we have with coral bleaching, right? We also have a issue of sargassum, of seaweed, that's impacting our coastlines, right? So we also have to take that into consideration as well. So it's a holistic.
And we're going to come back to especially that one, the sargassum. All right, viewers, we'll be right back. Viewers, welcome back. When we went for a break recently, you had mentioned the sargasso weed. That's the correct pronunciation?
Sargassum.
Sargassum. All right. I have that down correctly now. When I would be visit Helsha and so on, it was quite apparent, one whole heap of weed in the sea, and there are countries I've seen documentaries where it has taken over their entire beach, and it looks messy. But isn't there research being done on how to turn it into a product that can benefit the populace or benefit some industry?
Yeah, man, that's definitely happening. I participated in a study that was done where persons are trying to identify what sort of skincare products can come from using it. So little things like that are being done, but the problem is huge. So it's not going to just be one industry or one person that's going to come up and solve that problem, right? It's going to have to be a number of persons using it as an input for it to end up putting some form of dent in it.
Well, I've always had faith in the ingenuity of commerce, right? I've never forgotten when at a relatively young age I saw a documentary with Washington Carver, right, who made so many products out of peanut, when originally peanut was just to shell it or used as animal feed and all that type of thing. Now you have peanut butter and a plethora of other things. So I'm quite confident that when there's an abundance of a raw material like that, there will be multiple persons who see where at the end of the day. But it also feeds into what I'm saying with the 3D farming, sea farming, because when I've seen, especially there's a video now on the net called The Blue Revolution, right? And when you really look on the impact, the positive impact that this primary industry can have, right? Because there's a lot of damage being done with normal industrial farming, and there's more to be gained, positively to the environment, your field, right? With a lot of these products that can come out of it. Even the seaweeds, I didn't realize that you can second so much. That's the correct word, though. so much of the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere with seaweeds, because if you're tearing down the Amazon rainforest, you're going to have to find somewhere else to put all of that carbon dioxide.
Right. And I touched on it briefly earlier. When you were the environmental novice, the climate change novice,
All right.
I touched on it briefly by mentioning a carbon sink. Basically, that is anything that takes in more carbon dioxide than what it puts out.
Okay.
And forests are real examples of that. Algae has been known to do that as well as seaweed to some extent. The thing with seaweeds, some of them are so good at growing, right, that you can...
Like the sargasso?
Yeah, persons have said that you can sit down and watch
seaweed grow.
Right?
Yeah, no, I've heard that statement before.
Yeah, because they're very efficient at it. So we have to now be careful exactly how much more nutrients we're putting into the space where the seaweeds are, right, before finding a solution to deal with the seaweed. Right? Because they're already very good at growing. And
them don't need no help.
They don't need no help. And if one decides to give them some help,
you might really have a problem.
Then if we think we have trouble now, right, we would end up seeing real issues from it.
Okay.
But I'm saying that to say, though, that it doesn't mean that there are not ways, that there are not solutions available. Right? It's just that technically it's fairly early days now into this sort of problem. So we're still in R&D phase for a lot of things that are happening now. So I'm firmly confident, though, that the data will win out and commerce will jump in. And
save the day.
And other persons as well too will come in and realize that these are opportunities that are there that many persons can benefit from.
Okay. All right. Well, I've always been one who, I've always liked this type of discussion where you can talk about the possibilities, right? And especially explore potential, right? Because we're surrounded by water. We have more water. We administer more water space than land space, as what I was told or what I've seen in the seabed. When we still have it here, Seabed Authority.
I think so.
Right. All right. Now, so much for all of that. We're going to go back to speaking to Mr. James. So much for his portfolio as junior shadow minister of land, environment, and climate change. Mr. James, let me ask you a couple of questions here. Yes, it was your exposure to politics at an early age that it would have, make you feel basically that you have a contribution to make, and you're doing some of that. No, but are there any local or international? Firstly, are there any living or dead international politicians or persons of that type of influence that you admire, or you like what the contributions they have made?
It might sound a little cliche to say this, because the mere fact that I am an avid supporter of the PNP. But Michael Manley, he was around a little bit before my time. But
international. We soon reach the local, international.
You want me to start with international? Well,
yes.
If we start with international, then that's definitely Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
Right? Because he had gone through
the worst of it.
So much things that would have broken most of us, and it never did. And he came out of that, right, and did a fairly good job in terms of running the country. Just last week, I heard persons quoting him a lot. And the one quote that always stands out is that your enemy is not necessarily my enemy. Right? And that is something that I think that he had the vision to know that, look, not because X not talking to Y, right? It doesn't mean that I have a problem with X or I have a problem with Y, right? I can still talk to both X and Y, but I will not talk to Y because X is not talking to Y. So that sort of thinking.
I remember that video clip.
Right. That sort of thinking is visionary and timeless to say the least, right? And I mean, mark it, they've had difficult times, right? As a country, South Africa has had a difficult time, but
Going through some of it now too.
right, and coming out of that to see that steps are being taken and things are happening. There'll always be arguments on both sides as to whether or not more could be done, yes or no. But at the end of the day, we're not the person that was playing the hand that he was playing at the time when he was playing it.
True.
So at the end of the day, hats off to him and kudos.
Any living international politicians that you admire?
Barack Hussein Obama.
All right. What a middle name.
Right. That I tell you.
All right. And what is it what about his approach that you admire?
I remember when he was just campaigning for office, right? And some difficult questions were posed to him, and how he just always maintained his cool. He was always
Too cool, man.
exactly
Too cool.
always well spoken, and always fun loving. I was referencing him to somebody the other day, and saying that if you remember that there was an issue that happened with someone, and what he did was he said, look, we're just going to have a beer at the White House and discuss it. That's all. That's all it is.
And the discussion ended.
and he actually did have to be with him at the White House.
All right, we're going to go for a quick break, but we'll be right back, viewers. Do you need your wedding videotaped? Do you need a commercial or an interview done? Then call Sunshine Video Production. We videotape and edit functions, graduations, stage shows, music videos, and even funerals. We have a video studio and offer help with your marketing and promotional planning. So WhatsApp or call us at 883-0525. We went for a break a while ago. We were discussing international politicians. Now we're going to bring it home. All right. I'm asking for 2 living and 2 dead local politicians that you admire.
I definitely admire Mark Golding.
Okay.
Right? From how he has tried to articulate certain things, I think that he is somebody, and especially being a young professional, right? He's somebody that I look up to. Also, Dr. Peter Phillips,
Okay.
right? Because there was a time when persons thought that, boy, look, this country had nowhere going, right? And he basically stood up and said, look, we're doing this, and he pulled us forward.
Okay.
He is also someone that I remember talking to him about something, and saying, boy, this is the situation. And he says, look here, man, right? Tell you what I'll do, right? I will make a phone call, and all 3 of us will sit down and have a conversation to solve the problem. Right?
Okay.
So I remember that happening.
That type of direct leadership then.
I do remember that happening.
Okay.
Right?
All right. And 2 that have passed on, local politicians.
2 that have passed on the first one would definitely be Michael Manley.
Okay.
Right? That is a definite. And if you're saying in terms of politicians, I'm not sure if the second is actually a politician per se, but Howard Cook.
Okay.
Right? He's always been a statesman right? And a gentleman. And if you just listen to how
He was a statesman. You couldn't necessarily say a politician in the traditional sense of a politician. He was a statesman. Good one. If you got the opportunity, right, and you became a junior minister in the land, environment, and climate change, without giving away any ideas to the present party, are there any ideas that you think would have that positive impact on Jamaica generally, apart from the one that we're discussing about the 3D sea farming? Because I want to put that one out there. I believe that there are certain things that should be in the public discourse, and that is one of them. But is there any idea that you'd like to see happen? And being a patriot, you don't really care whichever sides was to work on it or to bring it to the foreground. Just let it be one idea that you'd like to see out there.
All right. Well, first of all, we have no issues sharing the ideas across the floor.
All right.
Because at the end of the day, climate change is a matter that is so important.
In a business with shirt.
It doesn't care about party lines. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that we have enough depth on our bench that we have ideas and the think tanks that will continue to help us to churn them out.
Okay.
So I'm sufficiently confident about that. So we don't have to hold on to any one or two ideas. We're willing to share them.
Okay.
Now, the one thing that I think that needs to happen is how we treat with water management.
Okay.
So we complain a lot that because we have longer droughts, drier times, all of that, we're now losing our water storage capacity just because of a lack of inflows. Now, a simpler solution might just be to start to suggest that persons change out all their faucets to the ones that use 30% less water.
Okay.
Right? Change your toilet to the one that use 30% less. Right? You don't realize the reduced flow, but it does. So you're not able to increase the capacity that you have at the reservoir.
A lower
but
usage.
You can reduce the amount of usage. Now, if everybody starts to reduce the amount of water that they're consuming, right, and you do it without noticing the loss, because again, a lot of the older technologies that we apply, right, never cared much about.
Neither here nor there.
Exactly. Right. The thing is, you need to get the water from there to here, and that's what's going to happen. Right. So now you have all this technology that have faucets and
efficiencies
and everything that functions on efficiency. So you now don't end up with this thing that's wasting water. You're using 30% less and you don't even realize it because the pressure is still there and all of that. So that's just the one thing that I would really love.
So what will happen is that the government would mandate that this be done, and in a policy suggest that when it comes on to bringing in certain pipes, you put like a slight ban on certain pipes, or you don't like the ban idea?
Yeah, I don't like to take a hard position to say that just ban this, but because we have to understand that persons are still earning a living out of these things.
Okay.
Right. So had we started this process 4 years ago, 5 years ago, right, would have been far advanced now.
Yeah, but you can ban the importation. No, you're not banning the sale of it.
Right. So what I'm saying is we have to now look at a policy that ensures that we can achieve the objective, right, and persons have enough time to get rid of what stock they have and get back in new things, and also ensure that the competitive pricing is not impacted as much, because as you know, with newer technologies they tend to be a little bit more pricey sometimes, but they've been on the market long enough now that I believe prices have started to settle down somewhat. So persons can now start to look at that, and based on where we are now technologically, you can simply go to a supplier in another country, or even have somebody here and say to them, look here, right? I want faucets that use 30% less water, right?
And somebody can design
and
it.
somebody can
3D.
design it and do a 3D print for your mock-up and everything, and you have that, and you can go with it. As a matter of fact, I'm sure we have persons in the Patriots, right, who are able to do that.
Okay, okay. Well, the thing is this, for me, I like the idea of, where should I put it? Sometimes while we go ahead and discuss certain things, Rome burns, right? Because it's evident that we're having these problems as a result of climate change. And sometimes we might spend a couple of years discussing the issue while Rome burns, you know? When sometimes some of these things need the remedial action to be taken right away. And I would never suggest banning something that people have in their storeroom in Jamaica or on the way. But you more look on them and tell them that, listen, 3 months from now, we'll put in a ban for this. And by the time you turn around, 3 months is here, right? So if somebody had it on the way, then he knows that, you know, you have 3 months, which is way more time than anything else, you know? Because what would it take 3 months to import right now, you know? But a lot of these things, I feel that they become papers and the discussion is done and it takes so long. It's not that we didn't know that this is a problem, you know? But if you don't mind, sometimes the process of coming up with the ban takes 2-3 years before finally we say it has to be done. And a lot of the times when it's done is when the problem is at a crisis level.
But you see, we are at crisis stage right now. No?
I know.
Right? We're at crisis stage. And remember where the question originated. What would I do if I became a junior minister?
Okay. Point. All right. So, so that's how you would approach it. Point.
That's how I would approach it.
All right. The venturing into politics, even though more for right now as a technocrat, right? Or as a professional looking at it based on your personal field, what would you say to a youngster who, when you say to him, get involved in politics, and he has a lot of negative words to say to you, why would he get into politics? What is the reason? Okay,
and the first question I ask anyone is, why do you want to get into politics?
Okay.
Because if you're not going into politics with a mindset that you're here to serve persons, then this is not the place. Because I'd use myself as an example. I'm in it because I believe that this is the best way to give back and to make positive change, right? And you actually will see tangible results. So where else would I be able to sit down and discuss a policy position as to what would be ideal for Jamaica, right? And then now, you know, you'd actually have an opportunity to be able to sit at the table and help to craft that policy.
Impact on the lives positively impact on the lives of Jamaica.
Exactly.
Well, we're going to wrap up soon, but there are 2 questions I want to ask. All right. You don't have to brace yourself, but anyway, well, you might. Do you have any political aspirations, sir?
I had them, and I no longer have them.
Okay.
Right? I was at one point interested in running for a seat. I was actually a candidate.
Okay.
Right? For a local government election. However, I've realized that it's where I serve best is on the policy side. And one of the key things and things that a lot of times we tend to think things are about us and egos. I'm not that type of person.
Okay.
So I realized that, look, there is actually somebody there who can do this thing better than me. No problem. I have no problem stepping away for the person who can do it better to do it, and I still support and I'm still fully committed.
Okay, so you're not necessarily the one that will be there beating the street and be at the rallies and do all of that type of standing in front of the crowd and all that type of thing.
Right. As strange as it might sound, I'm not really fond of standing up in front of a crowd and talking to people. I do it because, well, I can, right? But you will see me at the rallies. I mean, I find it to be a whole lot of fun, and I love the interaction. But then to be the center of attention all the time, I don't really like that.
Okay. This will be our final question, Mr. James. All right. It has been a lovely interview. It's obvious that you're in your element. All right.
Thank you.
All right. So, so I'm quite sure that you'll adequately serve your role as junior shadow minister. All right. Let me not have any Freudian slips. What is your overall vision of Jamaica?
Okay.
Where you'd like to see us go, and if you could contribute to that, process, that channeling, what would be the end goal?
I really believe that Jamaica, based on where we are located geographically, and that we speak good English, right, we have numerous opportunities, right, where we can function for so many different industries. We have, unfortunately, fallen into this sort of largesse where we now think that because certain industries are operating and they're doing pretty well, that there's long term in that. But if you look at what technology is doing, right? So, for example, if we look at where technology is going, the face of the employee will have to change. Okay. Because if you buy a certain type of car right now, right, the car can basically drive itself and look out for traffic, right? So that means that you're now going to need a computer programmer, right, as well as somebody who is mechanically inclined, right? So we have to now look at how we position our workforce to ensure that we're able to even export labor and import work. So that sort of thing, that's how I would love to see Jamaica being positioned, where we can now benefit from the resources that we have, right, rather than sit and watch everybody pass us by. And then we are left at the back end saying, boy, but we coulda, we shoulda, and we didn't end up doing it.
Okay. All right. So you're basically saying that you'd like to see a situation where we have a better appreciation of what the future has to offer.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Mr. Junior Shadow Minister, let me thank you again for visiting our studios. It has been, a lovely interview. I saw where you imparted quite a bit of knowledge to our viewers, and I'm quite sure they would have benefited from watching the interview. And I'm quite sure that the senior or the shadow minister is going to make sure to pick your brain when the time comes. Thanks again for visiting us, and you might just be invited to return, sir.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'd be happy to return.
Okay. All right, sir. This is where it is.
This is where it is now.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Viewers, thanks for joining us. Hope that you were informed as to, firstly, who Mr. Lenroy James is, and also on various questions about land environment and climate change in Jamaica. Join us again pretty soon for another episode of In the Hot Seat. And it wasn't such a hot seat this time.
It actually wasn't.
All right, cool.
It's comfortable.
All right. Bye for now.